Well, Lindsay, thank you very much for joining me today on Real Feel Insights, this podcast. I'm so glad that you are joining me. Can you tell me a little bit about like where you're from or what's some background, please?
So I grew up in eastern North Dakota. Just lived there my whole life.
What birth order when do you have siblings?
I'm middle child.
Middle, so
Yep.
there was three.
Yep.
An older brother?
Older brother, younger
Okay.
sister.
Younger, okay, so you're the middle. Do you often refer to yourself as the forgotten one?
No, I say I'm the lucky middle child.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
Okay, sure. Because you often hear sometimes like people saying like that middle child is the one that when there's three,
Yes.
they're the forgotten one, you know, for whatever. But you're the lucky middle. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Good positive attitude, Lindsay. I like it.
Well,
All
there
right.
might be a tish bit of sarcasm to that.
Okay, I gotcha. I hear it. I hear you.
But I didn't ever feel forgotten.
Okay.
Made myself known.
Okay, sure. Pretty nice. Yeah, I like that. Made myself known. Okay, all right. College.
Yep.
Education, anything?
I graduated college. I have a variety of experience. After high school, I actually went to cosmetology school. So I have been a licensed cosmetologist for 23 years.
So are you practicing or do you just keep that license?
I keep the license.
Okay.
And I still do hair, friends and
I
family.
did not know that. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
So, in fact, I just quit when COVID hit.
Okay.
Because I had my baby, I was on maternity leave, and that's when they were like, you have to wear masks and
It's just a little more
shields,
difficult.
and I freaked out. So, I officially retired, but I kept my license.
Okay. So when you say you freaked out, it was just difficult for you to adapt to that new system
Yes.
of wearing masks and shields and
Yeah. Well, and then being a first-time mom. You know, I have a stepchild, but I didn't experience the baby stuff, the new stuff.
So maybe the interaction, sure you were wearing the masks and stuff but you're still interacting. So you were afraid of like bringing stuff back and forth. Okay.
Yep.
You were first. How old was your child? When did you give birth to?
March 6th. So it was like 2 weeks before the shutdown.
Wow. Of 2020 then. Wow.
So my entire maternity leave was on shutdown.
Wow.
So I didn't get to experience any of the firsts. So I had like massive anxiety when we could go out. I think everybody looks forward to like,
Sure.
I'm going to go to Target with my new baby.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to go to Target.
Terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified. And if you have high anxiety already with that, why then you're really like, don't touch, don't look.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we all were. We didn't know what was going on there.
Right. And that's when they were like wiping down the packages still. And I'm like, yeah. So that's when I officially retired from doing hair. I do have a degree in exercise science.
Really?
Yep.
So can you explain exercise science? I'm sorry, just tell me what I don't know. Like I know what exercise is.
Yeah.
Science, I'm thinking like you understand like the anatomy of
Anatomy. Physiology. Yep. A lot of people use it as a stepping stone to almost like if they're going to be a personal trainer or like a sports medicine person, like basketball, you know what I mean? Oh, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. Athletic trainer.
Sure.
Or they use it as the next step would be in like PT, OT, something like that.
Okay.
I really was interested in cardiac rehab.
Okay.
That's where I did my internship. So, but it just, at that time, it was the pay versus student loans type thing.
Yeah, I understand.
And, times have changed, but back then, I couldn't do it.
Sure. Yep.
So,
Couldn't swing it financially.
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I understand. Well, that's a legitimate concern. When you get out, you might have like a desire of, or you think, okay, that's what I want. You get out into the world and, well, there might be not, jobs. There might not be the openings or the need for it. And, well, you didn't know,
Yeah.
we don't know
Well,
always.
and I'm not a sporty person, so I had no intentions of going into like athletic training.
Sure.
I wanted to go more medical side.
Sure. Okay. Yep.
So
Where did that take you? So you have the degree.
I have the degree. So then I actually worked for some hospitals with their electronic medical records.
Okay.
So I would train nurses and doctors and stuff like that on how to do their documentation with the electronic medical record.
Okay.
Go to clinics and go out of town, and
Yep, sure.
kind of took me
Took
all
you
over.
All over the nation, or just like the area of the upper Midwest type?
Upper
of-
Midwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could choose where I wanted to go.
Okay.
I think the farthest I went was Colorado. I was there for a month.
Okay. Okay. So you still have your hair styling. What's that? What?
Cosmetologist.
Cosmetologist. Okay. You had that degree. Were you doing that still yet too, or?
When I was working full time with the electronic medical records, I was doing hair just more on the side.
Sure.
But once I moved, when I bought a house and I moved out of town,
And you were on your own at this time?
yep.
And how old when you were doing the medical records and traveling and things? How old were you at that time?
I was in my early 30s, no kids, just me, kind of doing my thing. Purchased a house out of town, started getting settled there. I didn't really want the commute anymore, so I was actually able to find a job in town. But yeah, and then a couple years went on. I married my neighbor.
Oh, so you bought the home at
I bought
about
the
the
home.
30 years old, and the neighbor to you with the new house you bought? Mm-hmm. You had no idea?
Nope.
You bought a house, and okay, cool. I like these stories. I love them. You just never know what, job change. And well, this is often what I think about. Like sometimes when something closes, a door or a job or something happens like that, it's actually opening another door for you. So like you moved, you bought the house, now another. So tell me more.
Well,
I have to hear.
And this is all so crazy because when I got married, I was 38, so I was later in life.
Okay.
But basically, things happen for a reason. Everything happens
Everything does.
how it's supposed to.
Right.
I could have never predicted that this was going to happen. So we moved into our houses at the same time.
Okay.
Actually, he was married. We were all friends. A year later, she passed away unexpectedly.
And your neighbors now.
Yep, we're neighbors at this point.
Wow. So you were friends with her. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So and
Did they have children?
Yep, that's my stepson. So
And how old?
he was almost 5,
At the time. Wow.
and he's 13 now.
Okay.
So, we had a friendship that already built, and it just naturally progressed. Like, I don't think either one of us was really expecting it.
Sure.
You know, we're just good
Well, you
friends.
lost your friend. This boy's mother. I mean, your neighbor. I mean, a friend of yours. You lost. What did she pass away from? If you don't mind me asking.
She had gastric surgery.
Okay.
It's kind of a compounded thing.
Sure.
She also had chronic pain.
Okay.
So she was taking opioids.
Okay.
So
a
it's-
combination. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened is she apparently had a slow leak
Okay.
in this gastric sleeve. And normally, one of us who's not taking pain meds and whatnot would feel it probably right away that something's wrong. But I think the opioids kind of masked
Yep.
that. And by the time that she felt
Yep.
sick, she was septic.
It was too late. And how old was she at the time?
She was 38.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a tough knock to that family. And
Oh, it was. Yeah.
okay, so I'm sorry about that. That was tough for the,
Yeah.
I mean, for you, I mean.
Oh, it
for
was
the friend
very
group and
difficult, yeah.
family.
And then to start a relationship while he's still like grieving and but then I also had my own set of like feelings about it all, Not gonna lie, I was angry. I was very angry with her
Okay.
just for how it all went.
Fair enough. Did that anger maybe perhaps come from some choices of hers, and then you loved this child probably, and left a husband, and
Yeah, once she passed, it was kind of like you find things out about a person, and you realize like they're not who you thought they were, type thing. I'm very much like I don't lie. There's no point in lying. It's going to come back around. Things are always going to be found out. So, when you're uncovering some of that stuff after the fact, I was very mad. And I think it kind of was like a protective thing over my husband and son. So it was like, how dare you?
wow, interesting.
Yeah.
That is just, your honesty, and when you say you don't lie, there's so much that is really, really, I mean, we could spend an entire episode just talking about that, because, just lying, being honest about how you feel sets you free. It might make people uncomfortable when you're talking about it, but it's the truth. So when you often hear about, well, the truth will set you free, you believe it, but then when you're in the moment and you might not want to hurt somebody's, you don't go around and saying hurtful things.
Right.
But you, like you said, you don't lie about it. You're honest about it. I got the way you articulated that situation. I understood it. You didn't even have to explain even some of the details, because you did by just saying, I don't lie. A person just needs to be honest. So, I mean, that in and of itself is really, you got to say that.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, everybody's entitled to their feelings. You don't always know why you're feeling a certain way, but, you're feeling that way for a reason.
correct. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And to process those feelings, like, why am I angry? Why am I sad? What's going on? Sometimes we don't have the time to do that, truthfully. We've got, kids or appointments or whatever, but don't forget to tap back on that door again, because I think it'll come back up
yeah.
somewhere along the line.
Well, it's
later
easy
on.
to bury it type thing. You know what I mean? It's easy to run away from feelings.
Right. Yes.
But it's not actually, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they're always with you. You're just, you're coping is, you know.
And a lot of times it's, I remember, different times in my life, it literally hurts to face the truth. Whatever. I mean, I lost my husband, and facing that and thinking, I was so fearful and scared. I mean, I can imagine, I believe why people don't want to process it. It physically hurts.
It does.
So, I mean, that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up, that you don't lie. You just be honest with the situation and the feelings and the emotions. So then it transpired into,
A relationship.
wow. And how was that kind of, you weren't obviously expecting it.
I wasn't expecting
How long
it.
did that take for you to both realize
I think we realized it fairly quickly.
Sure.
But neither of us said anything right away.
Okay. Are we talking like 3 months? Are we talking
No.
8 months?
We're talking probably 6 to 8 months ish that we realized like,
Wow.
I think I kind of like you. In fact, I I tried to hook him up with a different girl,
Okay.
saying, I think that you'd be good together.
Okay.
And then when they started hanging out, I actually got really mad.
Oh, okay.
And I was like,
You didn't like it.
I think I like you.
So you had to identify it first to yourself, and then clearly that didn't work. Was it not working for him either?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. So then, well, that probably needed to happen so that you felt that and you identified that feeling. Who asked first? Who made the first?
We like to have bonfires a lot.
Okay.
So we were doing that, and maybe a cocktail or two, and I think I blurted out like, I think I might love you. And he's like, I thought the same thing.
Oh,
So
that is
that's
so.
yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah. And then it also turns out that we grew up in the same town, but on opposite sides.
Okay.
But from the time that I met him, I said, I know you from somewhere.
Okay.
And it turns out that we went to the same after school program
When you were
when we were kids.
children. Wow. Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I ran into him in my college years.
Okay.
But we had some of the same friends.
Sure.
And like, it was like, whoa.
It's meant to be. It's
I
absolutely
know, it's
meant
one
to
of those
be.
situations that I was like, you couldn't make this up.
Right.
Like,
Wow. Okay, so now you're getting together. You said, "I think I love you," and
Yep.
he's like, "I think I do too."
yep.
And this
yep.
is 8 months after he lost his wife,
Yeah, about.
about approximately somewhere around there. So then, now what are you? Well, how are you feeling now? Like, what's
Anxious, not knowing like, is this okay? Are people gonna say like, it's way too soon? But then it's kind of like, well, who cares what other people think? Like, we know what we have. So,
how was he about processing? The speed of letting his wife go, because that was not. You didn't even get probably a week to even realize
right.
from her passing away to her becoming ill to passing away. So that was very quickly.
It wasn't even, it was literally she stood there and said, I don't feel good, and collapsed.
Okay.
So it wasn't like she got sick. It was
Right.
literally she
Sure.
collapsed.
Like
and
this all happened within a day then. I mean that. Okay, an afternoon or a morning or a night or whatever.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and he had a lot of stuff to process through, a lot of feelings, and then.
Was he capable of doing that and processing through all of that stuff?
Not really.
Not really?
Not really.
Okay. Why do you say that? Not really. Did you have to help him
Yeah.
walk through some of that stuff?
I had to help him walk through some of it. Plus, then we had to. I told him that he needs to reach out to a doctor, a counselor, or someone to help him. And he was actually ended up being diagnosed with PTSD. So, like certain situations, he would just freak out. Like when I had my C-section, he kind of had like a
Panic attack.
yeah. So, and then
Did that come from him losing his first wife? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
it's the whole surgery thing.
right.
Surgery equals
Yeah.
bad. So, but I'm like,
Well, he went to he died. So I think sometimes the beginning of the climb out of any situation is just understanding it or accepting it, and that's the start of it. And half the battle is actually pretty much won by the time you say, okay, this is, I have PTSD, because so many people fight all that stuff and feelings. Well, you're not moving ahead when you fight it. You have to diagnose it, accept it, understand it, and start doing
and
the
learn how to deal with it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So, and now
he can move
8
forward.
years later,
Sure.
I feel like he's better even with his feelings than
Sure.
what he even ever was.
Well, and when those panic attacks or if a situation comes up, you have a coping mechanism. You kind of know how to identify it, and then perhaps you can use some coping mechanisms
Yep.
that you know might work or what won't work, and then what to do.
Yep. Yep.
So, wow, interesting. So then so 8 months, approximately 8 months
Yep.
later, then, and
We
now
started dating.
Okay.
And then I moved into his house a few months after. It was probably a year-ish after she had passed. Then I moved into his house.
And it was kind of like with his son. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
there was no, like, I'm going to introduce you to this lady. I mean, you all, so it
We
was
all
kinda
knew each other.
So that was really
The
helpful.
but the funny thing is his son, I mean, he was young. He couldn't remember my name.
Sure.
So I was the neighbor gal.
Oh, okay. The neighbor gal.
Call me the neighbor gal.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So, and for quite a few years, he called me by my name, and I said, that's totally fine.
Right.
You don't ever have to call me mom. But then once I got pregnant and we had our baby,
So you're skipping a section
I
here.
am skipping a section, aren't I?
So you then dated for,
We didn't date for a very long time before he proposed.
okay. You just knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One, especially at our age too.
Sure.
We were in our later 30s. So it's kind of like, why? Let's just move on with
Yep.
life type
Yep.
thing. It's the person.
When you know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get it on. Get
Right,
get going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've waited long enough.
Sure. Yeah. So you got married then? Was it
Yep.
happy, big wedding, just kind of a
It
smaller wedding, or what?
was very just like fluid. Like we invited a lot of people, but it was very low key.
Sure.
Very just us. Like
Laid back,
Yep.
but it was nice.
It was super nice. And we actually still have people come to us and say, your wedding was the most fun I've ever had at a wedding.
Sure, because it was laid back and relaxed, not uptight and
It wasn't
overly
stuffy
the top or
no.
stuffy. Okay, I like
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Yep. It was just
Yep.
nice.
Yep. What day
Like the date,
of the anniversary? What's your anniversary?
June 15th.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
June wedding.
Yep.
Was it a lovely day?
It rained
Okay.
that day.
Yep.
But I've actually heard that rain is supposed to be like a sign of
Oh,
Something
I think I heard something
good,
about that.
not
Yes,
negative.
Yes.
But then the skies cleared and we got the most beautiful pictures because of the rain.
Oh.
And it also cooled off the air.
Okay, sure.
So
It was a
worked
great day.
out. Yeah.
It was a beautiful day.
Yep.
June 15th. Very special. And then, so you have another child. Was that rather quickly? Did you decide to have a child, or?
I don't know how in depth you want to get with me, but I hadn't been on birth control for a number of years, and never got pregnant. And as soon as him and I were married,
You got pregnant.
I got pregnant.
That's
Again,
so special.
it's one of those
Yeah,
like,
it is.
yeah,
Yep.
yep. So yeah, it was almost 9 months to the day.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was between the wedding and maybe our honeymoon
Sure.
week.
Yep.
But then my sister got pregnant and my cousin got pregnant
Oh, right at so
at the same time.
Okay.
Boom, boom, boom.
okay.
So I said,
It was literally in the air. Something in the water.
Right.
Maybe that's what they say.
so
Well, that makes it special then. So then you and your sister both were pregnant at the same time, and your cousin were pregnant at the same time.
yep,
Well, that's really cool.
yep. And my cousin and my sister ended up having their baby on the same day.
Wow. How far apart are yours then?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Or were you first, or were you?
I was first.
You were first. Okay. Okay. Oh, so now you have a family.
And now we have a family.
Did you adopt is it your stepson?
My stepson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's not, okay.
No, we didn't. We talked about it, but because of basically Social Security stuff
Sure.
and the benefits,
Yep.
we didn't know how it would work. And it's like, why rock the boat
Right.
type thing.
Right. Yep.
I'm mom to him.
Does he call you mom now?
Yes.
He does. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and him and I had a lot of conversations, a lot of really open conversations. Like, just because you didn't come from my belly doesn't mean that you're not my son. Like, I am mom. I'm the only mother figure, you know, in the household.
Does he have contact with his his biological mother, their family?
No.
There's no contact there at all?
No.
So, but your husband's mom
Yep.
and dad, so his grandparents on that side,
Yes.
and then yours.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it's really, I mean, it's a very blended, very well-blended family.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody gets along. In fact, we even have like holidays together, you know, where
Beautiful.
they
Yeah.
invite my sister, my mom.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Even my grandma.
Yeah.
'Cause my grandma's 92. So it's like, grandma can't be alone
Sure.
for the holidays.
Aw,
Just have her
yep,
come with
yeah,
too.
Yeah. Well, it speaks volumes then,
Yeah.
you know, about your family, that you just are kind to family, friends, and people and stuff in general. And make it work and just love
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody. That does. It does. It speaks volumes. What, so then, what about with the job now? I mean, new mom, I mean, it was in 2020. So adapting to that, I mean, that was having a baby right before your anxiety skyrocketing.
Yep.
Mm,
So
made
then why not start planning a business?
Had you been thinking about it, you know?
No, actually.
Okay.
I was actually approached by somebody who asked if I would be interested in buying their business
Okay.
and training with them. And I was like, heck yeah. And it all went.
Like it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it didn't.
Okay.
Well, I didn't end up purchasing the business.
Oh, okay.
But at that time, I said, you know what? I've put in so much time, so much effort into planning this business. I'll be damned if someone can tell me if I'll be successful or not.
You have a fight in you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if I would tell you you can't do something, that
Watch
makes
me.
Yeah, watch. Watch you. Okay, I like. Yeah, that's a fight. That's a
And
fight.
that's where I feel like the middle child thing comes in.
Sure. Yes.
You know?
Yes. You were heard. You were heard. You're not going to be not heard.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to make your space and
Whether it is good or bad,
right.
you're going to hear me.
Sure. I like that. I like people that are just straight up say it, you know, the way it is, and you know, that's the way I am. I mean, just say it, and I don't have time. I don't want to waste any
Right.
your time or my time. So let's just be honest, straightforward, get her done, and move on with whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Right or wrong.
Yep.
But
Well, and even if, you know, if your words do hurt someone's feelings, you own it. You know, you say,
Sure.
I'm sorry that it hurt your feelings.
right.
But that's where it's like, but I am entitled to how I
Sure.
feel.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
didn't mean to make you feel bad,
Right.
but I need to let you know.
Right.
Type thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I mean, and sometimes will refer to that as, you know, business is business. You know, there's decisions that you have to make, one or the other. Somebody is going to be upset, or somebody is going, and it's not, nobody likes to be in that,
No.
you know, that spot to have to make that decision, but you have to make it. And in
Yes.
business, that's often what happens sometimes. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person, you know, and just be honest and just say, hey, one of you two are, you know, I got to go with one or the other, and it is what it is. So,
Well, and ultimately, it's like you got to watch out for yourself and your family. You know, especially when it
boundaries.
yeah,
Okay.
and especially when it comes to money. You know what I mean? It's money brings out the worst in people.
Yeah, sometimes.
It can, you know, and when it comes to a business deal that's going to affect their life and my life, it's, I have to do what's best for me and my family. And at that point, it was walking away. And I didn't think I'd be walking away from a friend, but that's the choice that was made.
That's a tough one. I mean, we could really dig deep into that, but you know, friends in life sometimes, you know, you part ways, and that's difficult. It's very difficult to process because of the connections, you know, whatever it is. I mean, if it's a financial connection, if it, you know, to business owners, that can get sometimes, you know, you go into a partnership of some sort, or friends from high school, and you just, you know, get married and you go separate ways and things, you know, boy, that's a tough one too to handle.
I'm the type of person that, I don't know if I'm the opposite or if it's just my Midwest in me, but I trust people wholeheartedly right away.
Okay.
It's not, you have to earn my trust. It's, you have my trust.
Oh, okay. Until they give you something for you to not trust.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And that's how sometimes I feel like I get hurt. But at the same time, I can't change who I am. So
do you sometimes reflect on situations and think, I was too trustworthy on that one?
yeah.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
But at the same time, if that's who you are and that's
Right,
how do you go about it a different way?
right.
So yeah, so I guess you live and you learn, you know.
Yeah, and I like how you said that about it just is the way you are. You can fight it all you want, but that's just the way you are. You just trust, and you know it might even be a shortcoming on your part, but it is how you are, and that's, you can't change that.
No.
I sometimes reflect back on my life, and I think of things that I know that, you know, I probably, you know, I'm just a very emotional person, so I just jump in wholeheartedly with my heart with a situation for somebody, and that I can't change that. But with that character of mine, it's like I'm always like, I'm feeling bad for people. You know, I feel bad for a situation, or I'm so sorry for something, and you know, I wish I could have more like, okay, I'm sorry for them, and then move on.
Right.
Let it go.
But you can't.
I can't.
I'm the same way.
I can talk myself through that situation, and like, I shouldn't be doing that. You know, that's theirs and not yours, Sarah. And yeah, so
Well, and then it's the whole, like, I want to help you, but there's only so much time,
sure, right.
you know, and you have your own stuff to deal with, and you have your own family, you know, and you have to, I've often had to look at it like that too. It's, I want to help you. If I had the time, I would help you. Not even that. It's, I want to help you, but my family needs me more. I can't neglect my family at home.
Boy, that's a tough spot in there to, you know, as we get older and we have more on our plate. You know, I want to help. I want to go with my child and, you know, do the, you know, the class trip, and be a chaperone or something. And, you know, you can't do that. You know, you want to do that. And then, you know, your mother is sick and, you know, needs something, you know, for you to take her. We're just torn in so many different directions. And we all talk about like these boundaries, but like, well, life doesn't come with a manual. So it's like, okay, yes, I know, I understand boundaries, but like, okay, where do I apply them? How, with who, when, why? You know, I mean, it's a difficult thing to, you know, so, but I like how you say that. You prioritize, it's your children, your family, and then you work out from there.
Yep.
How do you feel? Do you ever feel sometimes selfish?
Yeah.
Okay. Guilty?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. These are normal
These are normal feelings.
How do you process that? Like when you, guilt? Like,
You know, I guess I'm just honest with people. So, like, when I had to drop my son off at daycare for the first time, I ugly cried. Like, it was bad. But the people that worked there were able to help me through it. And then it turned into the whole, like, I have the day off, but I'm bringing him to daycare. And I was like, I should spend the day with him. And they would tell me, you need to have you time as well. Like, you have to have that time to yourself. And it's honestly those little experiences that have helped me just through, you know, he's 5 now. So
The ugly crying. I get it. I got it. I mean, that's bad. I mean, it's bad. I don't know if I should be saying I'm sorry to you or like laughing with you because
laugh with me, because I think anybody who, you know, is
it's tough.
emotional,
It
like
breaks
us,
your heart when you have to leave. Ugly cry. That's a great way to explain ugly cry. But you did it.
I did it.
You worked through that. You had the people that were around you said, we understand you. You felt safe. They didn't judge you.
And they like validate your feelings. Like, I know it's normal to feel guilty for wanting a day to yourself, but for your own mental health, you have to, you know, and that's kind of then the same with when you want to volunteer in the community or help with this or do this or help this person. It's like, nope, this is my time. I'm going to be selfish, not just for me, but for my family too.
And for you.
Yeah. And for me.
For you.
And there are days too that I have to say, this is a me day. I need a me day. And as guilty as I feel still, and like for my
safety,
emotional
and mentally safety. Because this is what I was going to say. If you don't take it manually, you take it, it's going to take it for you. Because I experienced that over the years. Like, you just keep giving and giving, or you know, you're just getting so pulled. You know, your kids, we're not even talking about way out there, out of the circle. We're just talking about, you know, our own business, our own family, our own spouse, you know, our own circle. And we get overloaded, and our body will tell us.
Oh yeah.
I remember, you know, back when the kids were really little, I'd just crash for a day. I didn't understand it. I mean, I didn't identify that that's what was happening, that my body was just, I was done. I physically couldn't take one more thing. So then I would just crash. So if you're not aware of it, which I wasn't, so then that's how you ended up with, in my, you know, situation from time to time through those years, you got to take it. And, you know, if you feel something coming on, probably, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yep. Whether it's feeling like super anxious and overwhelmed, or you feel like physically, you know, your immune system is down because you've been running ragged. Yeah, you can tell when enough is enough. At least I can. I'm very aware of my feelings, if that makes sense. So
I think that ties back to your childhood about, you're going to see me, you're going to hear me, just because I'm the middle child. So that might be a little bit of a character issue too, that you can identify that. You just have a strong, you know, somebody that's very maybe perhaps timid, maybe born, you know, maybe a people pleaser for whatever reason, that, you know, from a childhood situation, they can't identify that. They can't vocalize that. They just can't identify that. But I think it's extremely critical as we journey through life to have this exact conversation. You know, even in, like, you know, when we're in high school, our parents are kind of telling, you know, I'm sure we get to make decisions and stuff, but I mean, you know, because of course they've got to pay for things most generally on the on the average, parents will be paying for, you know, your activities and fees and bringing you places and what you need to do, either parents or grandparents. But then when we venture out and start going to college, we start making decisions. We have to manage our money, our time, and things like that. So, I mean, it can start right around that time. And then as our plate gets, you know, we get, you know, careers and families and
Yeah. When life gets real.
Yeah. When it hits the tar and the rubber hits the tar sometimes. And everybody has it.
Yeah.
We're not alone.
No.
We're not alone. Everybody has it, certain degrees. And, so much stuff that we even bring through from our childhood. Even if we have a super great childhood to like a really bad childhood, bringing that to the table too can be part of our full plate. And if you hadn't identified some of that stuff, now you just brought the people-pleasing character to the plate, some abuse to the plate. And if you hadn't worked through any of that, why then now your plate's even more full,
Yep.
On top of it.
And that actually brings me back to the point of when my husband and I first got together and first moved in with each other. There was tension, obviously. He was going through a lot. And it dawned on me one day that I grew up with a single mom. My dad checked out. I didn't know how to have like a husband-wife relationship.
Is it a husband-wife or is it just another guy?
It's honestly, in hindsight, it's just that man-woman relationship
Sure.
of the communication.
Sure. When you say it dawned on you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I don't want to forget this. You said it dawned on you when you moved in with your husband before you got married.
Before we got married, yeah.
And you didn't know how to communicate. I'm thinking, is it two things? Like, because you didn't have a dad
I never watched that interaction.
between your mom and
Yeah.
the parent.
Yeah. I saw my grandparents, but
Sure.
you only see that in little snippets,
Yeah.
because they lived out of
Wow,
town.
Interesting.
So I never saw the dynamics of a husband-wife and how they communicate and how they work through things. I was very, I would try to control everything. Like it's up to me. It's funny. It's finally like, when you have a bonus family, it's like, it's not, I have to let go of the old Lindsay.
You've done a lot of processing because
I try.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like when you said it dawned on you that you didn't have that. What was it that it just dawned on you?
We
must
were
have
literally like in the middle of not an argument,
Sure.
but like trying to figure things out. And I finally was like, you know what? This is something I need to learn. I said, I didn't get to watch the husband-wife dynamics with my
Wow,
mom.
Sure.
And that helped him understand where I was coming from. Like, I'm not trying to control you. I'm not trying
Great.
to like
Wow.
nag you.
Very interesting.
Me
Yeah.
trying to figure this out.
Yep. So a single home, you're explaining it having a single mother, but I bet, for a product of a single home, period. A single dad, single mom,
Yeah,
regardless.
yep.
There's going to be some deficiencies there that the product, you, the children, are going to have to identify.
yeah.
I mean, that's a big, when you said that dawned on me, I was like, well, what happened? How
Because
did
it
you figure it
literally
out?
was. Yeah.
Wow.
And had it been someone else, I don't know. But he's my person. And that's,
Well, you loved him. You were trying to make things work.
yeah.
If, you were in a discussion or an argument of some sort and it wasn't working, so you were trying to figure out what's going on here, what's happening.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm very good at articulating kind of how I'm feeling. The way he was raised, they weren't as open. Like, we're the huggy family, and they are not the huggy
Sure,
family.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like it helped him understand
Sure.
where I was coming from a
Right,
little bit
right.
more.
Right.
Plus, then I feel like he kind of dropped his guard a little bit and was willing.
To understand you too. So being open in that moment. There is I always think of like, I was married for almost 30 years before my husband passed away, 29 and a half years. And I look back on some of the things, when we were in an argument or whatever, and it was like, I'm right, you're wrong. Sometimes we need to back up and think of, now that he's gone, sorry, why do we have to figure it out too late? And I think as the years went by, and on, we identified those issues. But I think sometimes we're so hung up on right and wrong, you know.
Black and white. There's
Yes.
just a,
Like,
and it's not. There's,
yeah. So maybe just saying like, hey, where are you coming at? Why are you coming at it like that? What's going
Yep.
on? You know, help me understand. And I know somewhere in there in our 30 years of marriage, we did do that, but I didn't do that sometimes. And I look back on that. We wasted so much time, you know, so it's always hindsight with that. But I think that's
Yeah.
extremely important to pull that out of what you just said, or, you know, to talk about that it's, you know, that's how you identified a major deficiency in you too, is just trying to understand that. And that helped you identify
yeah.
then and move forward.
I feel like
with
he
it.
kind of helped pull that out of me as well, because prior to that, it's like you get defensive instantly and you close yourself off. But I didn't want to be that way anymore. You know, it wasn't easy. You know, it's not easy at all. But
Why?
feelings are hard. You know, yeah. And then also being vulnerable is hard. You know, and you kind of get that fight or flight in you when someone pushes a little bit, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna fight for this. You know, I'm gonna fight for this relationship. We're gonna work through this, whether you like it or not.
That is tough. That's very tough.
Yep. Both of us have said to each other, I'm sorry, you can be as mad as you wanted at me, but I'm not going
like
anywhere.
I like that. I like that.
Yep.
And it is. It's tough.
It is. Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy being a wife, a mom, a business owner. You know, you always see kind of this idyllic, however you say it, like on Facebook or social media, that someone has like the perfect life. They have their, pardon my language, but they have their shit together.
It looks like it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It looks
Okay.
like it,
Okay.
but they don't. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
And
Why
instead of,
do people do that? We all do that. You know, I mean, well, it's not like we're not even trying to act, you know, I mean, you know, if somebody's shirt is buttoned wrong, you know, you want your children to, you know, so you straighten that up. And I know that's not what you're talking about specifically, but
Right.
like we all, you know, we all want to have a, you know, clean home. Well, then what if we don't in time? I look back when all the kids were home. I mean, I don't know how I did it with all the clothes and, you know, the kitchen and the cooking and having every meal ready and, you know, being where I needed to be. And then,
it's just being real.
yeah.
Like,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have enough time or energy to have a spotless house. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, life is messy.
Yes.
You know, you're going to come into my home and you're going to see we live in our home. You know, we've got 3 dogs. They bring in dirt. We've got 4 of us that live there. We have dirty dishes. You know, does it mean it's messy, like chaotic? No. But, you know, you keep things up, but the house is lived in. I don't have a nanny. I don't have a maid come in and clean things up when we're all away.
It's difficult. It's difficult.
I wish I could snap my fingers and have a maid, but
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Those are difficult years, such difficult years. And then, you know, you have people say, oh, it goes by so fast, you know, enjoy it. And, well, I'm trying. You know, I'm trying to enjoy this mess of a house. They don't even have any clothes to wear, but yes, I'm trying to enjoy this.
this is so fun.
And we laugh. We're laughing.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's
you
so horrible.
have to.
It's difficult.
It doesn't mean that it's like, yes, it's very difficult, but instead of like letting it get you down, it's like, let's just laugh about it. In hindsight, is it life or death? No. It's a messy house. You'll get to it when you get to it.
Right.
Are your kids happy,
Yep.
healthy, safe? There you go.
Yeah, you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah.
Doing the best that you can, and it's a juggling act. It really is. and everybody is in it. Yeah. What about the people, the mom? And I think all of us, we're right in that moment, and we're thinking, why does she have it all together? Why does he do it for her? And why does her kids do this? And why do they get to go? What happens when we start doing that?
Oh, the whole comparing thing.
Yeah.
It's not going to get you anywhere.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Because everybody has their thing. You can look at a couple and he does this for her. Okay, but my husband does this for me that your husband doesn't do, type thing. You know what I mean? We all have our thing. Good and bad.
Smoke your own smoke and hoe your own hoe. And isn't there a song on some? Why did that just come
Was
to me?
that,
I know that was random, but
Tim McGraw, when a Coke used to be a Coke.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't know why that came. That was very random, but it's true though. I mean, like, I mean, we're all individuals and we're all our own homes and we're doing it the best that we can. And, there's different financial situations and it is what it is. It's your life. It's your spot. I wish that I would have probably I was very young, when I got married and had children, and I do think that as you grow older, regardless if you're married or not or have children, you do understand some things a little bit better as you age. And so I think sometimes when we're younger and start families and homes and start with that, I don't think you have that mental maturity.
Right.
At least I didn't.
No, if I was a parent or married even in my 30s, early 30s, I was a completely different person. I was able to go be selfish and it was me, me, me. So I was ready to give up the me, me, me.
So I mean, just like the differences between like you and I and in our where we started having children, the dynamics of our childhood, it just I mean that just there's so many different elements that can play a part. So I mean, it's like comparing a banana, an apple and an orange, or a banana and a pineapple. I mean, it's not we shouldn't be doing that.
No.
We do that, but we shouldn't. So when we're starting to do that, we've got to just say, hey, hold on here now. That's not a good avenue to go down. We must not do that. This is my life. This is our unit, whatever. I have a friend that's going through, a divorce and has 3 children now. And she's, she's grieving the loss of what she had
in her mind. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, there's all of those things, but I mean, she'll be fine in time. But as she's grieving and processing all of that stuff, her dynamic, now is going to be different. And, whatever happens in life, it's hers.
Just to have those feelings, own those feelings, have your people that you can talk to. I'm the type, like, I don't have a lot of friends, but the friends that I do have are good friends. And when you're feeling a certain way, like, there's no point in masking it and trying to pretend like everything's okay. Sit down and talk. And you realize, like, oh my God, you felt like this before? You've been in this situation? Like anxiety. Anxiety is a huge thing. And if you start talking to someone about anxiety, they're like, yeah, I felt like that. I did that. I do that too,
And then what does that do to you when you hear somebody else saying, oh, I have that too?
You feel, quote unquote, normal.
Like you're not alone.
Like you're not alone, and you've got your people,
I want to back up just a little bit when you said that you don't have a lot of friends. I think about the things that I've been through in life of, like, smaller things or bigger things. I do have a lot of friends and I do know a lot of people, but my little circle, I really, I mean, you don't need a lot of friends. When you think, oh God, she's got, or he's got, so many friends. Well, no, you just need 2, 3, 1, that have, they totally get you, they got you, and you feel safe with them, and I mean, you don't need a big circle. So sometimes it'd be like, oh, gosh, they have so many friends. That can even intimidate you when you start to think, okay, I do need to maybe venture out and talk to somebody. You know, maybe I'll call a friend or whatever. You don't have to have 10 of them sitting around. You can just have
Yep.
one.
Well, and honestly, having that many friends is more pressure.
I agree. I totally agree. I really do. And yeah, I
So-
do. Yeah, you have to have your, boundaries.
Yeah.
Of that too. Yeah, you do. But I just think of like the many times that I curled up, on the sofa or went to a, restaurant and honestly was honest and confided in a friend or whatever, or Brad and my husband and I over the years, saying how I felt and getting that all out. I always used to say it to Brad, my husband. I was cleaning my arteries out, like sweeping them all out and getting everything out, and then I felt better. Then, at least my man Brad was, he hated it, like, but he knew he needed to give me that time, because as you go through marriage and a long duration of marriage, I don't think he necessarily enjoyed sitting down and letting me clean my arteries out, but he knew I needed to do that. And that's exactly what I would say to him. I just need to kind of sweep everything out and clean everything out. And
Yep.
then I got up and I was better.
Yeah, and I'm not asking you to fix anything.
No, right. Yeah.
I just need to get this out.
Yeah. That's sometimes all it really is. Because he could never take my whatever it was that was bothering me away. Your struggles, I can't take that away, but I can hear you. I can validate it for you. I can listen. And, if you ask me, what do you think about this or that? We can, a friend can do something like that, but most generally, nobody can take it away. So it's so critical, I think, to grab that one person, if it's your spouse or mom or dad, or whatever, just a really good friend, and sit down and grab a cup of coffee or, or something and just.
Well, we also need to learn to be that person. We need to learn to shut our mouths and just listen and hear people sometimes.
Very good point. Very good point.
Because it's a give and take.
Just to be an ear, listening.
And I learned that through my cosmetology career.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I always called it therapy.
Therapy. Okay. Yeah. I got it. I understand. Never heard of that word before, but I understand it. I totally.
Yeah.
Therapy. Okay. Sure.
Because people sometimes come in and just like regurgitate everything. They're not asking you to fix it.
Sure.
They're just asking you to listen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And you learn a lot by just.
Well, and one more thing, when you say like that, you also have to be, you can hear it, but you also have to be, continue with that zip in the lip too, and not repeating it, because then that's not a trustworthy friend either.
Absolutely.
I've encountered that in my life when I've shared something, and I thought it was, in private and, that it wouldn't be repeated. So, but I learned my lesson. And that spoke volumes of that person. So you also have to, when you shut your mouth and listen, you have to make sure that it stays shut.
Yeah.
And you don't repeat it, because that can be extremely detrimental to.
Well, that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Okay.
With people that, again, you put all your trust in someone and think that you can say something, and then it's not in confidence. And it's like, why? It takes more energy to be a crappy person.
It does. You get a little emotional. It hurts
It
when
does
somebody
hurt.
does that to
It
you.
really hurts. And even if it's like not someone you even consider a friend, but you still have like a moment with them, it's not easy to have moments with people, especially people you don't know. And when you do, and then it bites you in the butt,
It hurts.
it hurts.
It hurts terrible. And not only does it hurt in that moment, but it teaches you a lesson to look for those snakes in the grass now, if that's how you want to say it, or like you don't trust now. I mean, depending on how deep the cut went, the wound went, and who, if it's somebody so dear to you and they do that, so there's a lot of different elements in there. But I mean, that's where trust, that's why I call them trustworthy friends. Somebody that will shut their mouth, listen, and continue to shut their mouth and not repeat it. They have to be trustworthy friends, because now if you lost their trust, you just broke. I mean, and you did a lot of damage. A person does a lot of damage for long term for that person.
Yeah. And what it's doing for me, because it was a leader in the community that did this, and it's making me want to just completely retreat.
Ooh, retreat personally or like with the business?
With I just want to do my own thing.
Okay.
I have been striving to have like a business community. Most of us business owners on the main street are females. And so I was kind of like, let's work together. I'm not a competitive person. And I've also become very almost kumbaya as I've gotten older. Let's just get along, but it's true. Like, why don't we work together? And
Well, there's better if you can work together.
Yeah.
That's a given fact. That's not just you.
No.
If you can join forces with more, I don't care if it doesn't have to be women businesses. It can be.
But especially
anything in life.
because it's women. It's like, let's empower each other.
Sure.
You know? But instead, you don't. That kind of got away from us a little bit. And then I felt the hurt. And then now I'm understanding how other people felt the hurt when something like that happened to them. And now I kind of just want to be like in my own world, like they are.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. You put up a roadblock is what you're doing because you got hurt. And now you're, yeah.
So now I'm not going to have anything to do with this or this or this. And I'm trying really hard to like breathe, let that go. Don't make any rash decisions. Like, and then confronting someone too. It's like, do you confront them? Do you not?
Difficult.
It is difficult.
Very.
And especially as a business owner too. It's like, and a small town,
Well, it can affect you financially.
Yeah,
I
it can
mean,
affect your business. And, I didn't grow up super small town. So I'm getting to know that part, and when I first moved there, I was just, nobody knew me. People know me now. And it's kind of like, because I am the way that I am, and I speak fairly freely, and I speak my feelings, some people don't like that. Granted, I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody, but I'm going to be open.
Your vulnerability just is amazing to me. You just explained, I think, so many worldwide, if not worldwide, nationwide, if not nationwide, statewide, of every small town community, and your ability to articulate that, and you being so vulnerable to explain that, and you have pain with your vulnerability. It is very difficult. I don't know if there's any answers. There's nothing to, we're going to deal with people, and there's not so nice people. There's people that have gone through stuff, so they put up those roadblocks, and they're not going to have your back because they don't want to get their hands dirty. And then you're going to have, you're over here, and there's
basically what it comes down to, I feel like for me, is just being the best person I can be.
okay.
Being the best business owner, the best mom that I can be.
Yeah.
Other people, you can't control other people.
Right.
Yes, I got hurt, but is it going to accomplish anything by telling them like, you did this,
And that's something you're weighing right now and struggling through.
So in the meantime, it's like, I'm going to do what I can and just be the best that I can. I don't want to live life being bitter and jaded and not trusting people, because that's not in my nature, you know? So,
Well, we can keep going with that conversation, but I think it's probably because you're right in the moment. I mean, you're working through it. I can't even begin to thank you enough how honest you were and your vulnerability into explaining that. I I mean, I have a tendency to take, I heard it with myself. I took a sigh because I feel it 100% what you just explained. And you're going to have to figure that out. I mean, it's not easy. I think our viewers, some of them perhaps have maybe been in that same position and they might have some answers, or they might not even know what you're talking about, or they perhaps might be right in the middle of it. I think you just explaining this, you're not alone. I mean,
it feels I always say as a business owner, but in general, it is very isolating sometimes, feeling certain ways,
But I'm here
And
to
being-
tell you.
I know, and being here
Yeah.
and able to talk about
Yeah.
it feels good to just, I'm not playing a blame game.
No, you're not. And you never came across like that.
But it's like, it's real. It hurts. And we figure it out.
And you'll figure it out. Yeah. But I'm just reiterating too, you're not alone.
I appreciate that.
You're not alone. I mean,
And I truly do know that.
okay,
I have.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, seriously, I think all small town have this, but I don't care you used the example of a small town. I think churches can go through some issues. I think businesses can go through that. I think neighborhoods can go through.
Absolutely.
I think and I'm not trying to minimize you.
No,
Because
no.
I felt it. I felt every bit of what you were talking about, but I want to make sure you know too, that you're not alone. But I don't think nobody really has a manual.
No.
Because every situation is different. And these are the difficult things in life. But I love what you said when you said that you don't want to become bitter. You don't want to become guarded, and you're aware of that. So how to proceed with that? I think you're going to do fine. I think you're going to do fine because of your approach on it. And I think you're an understanding type of a person too. I mean, I don't want to be sitting here on this chair either acting like I know, because I think I'm getting you because I've been in that position. And I could be in that exact same position or very similar to that next week. I mean, so.
Well, and I think we've all been wrong at some point. You've been the person that maybe told something that you shouldn't. So, experienced all of these things, because I don't want to come across like I'm a perfect angel either, because I'm not. I've screwed up.
Right.
But it's, like I said earlier, own it and just learn from it,
Very good. I love that. Yeah. And, and I don't, I lost my husband. I'm going to bring this up again, but I think it brings me great comfort as I'm traveling through life. And my kids will sometimes say I'm kind of morbid when I bring this up, but because I lost somebody so near and dear to me, I think what it did is it gave me an insight into, such a close insight into nobody's getting out of this place alive. So make the best of every day. Don't make too big of a deal. Us women, I do. I get, all emotional and wound up in things about certain things. And I've learned to just, is it that big of a deal? And weathering my husband's death, I think, has helped me immensely
I can see that,
settle things down and really put stuff into perspective. Is it really worth, really losing sleep over? Is it really worth? And, really trying to mentally, manhandle kind of like, what, because honestly, none of us are getting out of here alive. So
when I'm trying to teach those skills now to my 13-year-old who lost his mom.
Because now he's starting to process.
Yes.
At 13.
Grieving when you're 5 is different than grieving when you're 13.
Wow.
And then throw in a sassy 5-year-old.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sassy but healthy.
Sassy but healthy.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a funny story?
I would love to hear a funny story.
My older one said something, and so the younger one came to me and said, Mom, he said a bad word.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, what was that? He's like, well, can I say it? I go, yeah. He goes, crap. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's not a very good word. You know, maybe we shouldn't say that all the time. He goes, well, at least he didn't say shit.
Okay. Well, okay. And tell me what did you start laughing?
I had to look away, and I was like, of course. Like, they're,
of course. Yeah.
And
right.
it's just those things like that. Like, you just got to laugh.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That is funny. That is very funny. Thanks for sharing.
It really doesn't have anything to do with anything, but it's like...
Yeah, and then you throw that into the mix, too. Like, then you have your little 5-year-old sassy frass come and say...
didn't say shit.
Yeah, you know what? Those things you got to write down, you know, and remember, because there's enough stuff and troubles and struggles in life that we got to laugh at.
You do have to laugh.
Some of those out of the mouths of babes sometimes. I mean, seriously, even like my grandchildren, I have 6 grandchildren, and all the stuff that they say, you know, or how they say a word, it just, you know, makes me laugh. It just melts my heart on some of that stuff.
It does.
So, well, I just want to thank you so much, very much, for your honesty, your vulnerability. I mean, wow, I think you tapped on so many things that there's a lot of us that, you know, we all struggle with, and you articulated it so well. And you're not perfect. I mean, you said that. You're just kind of walking through life to the best of your ability.
Trying to figure it out just like everybody else.
Yeah. That's a good message. It's a very good message. Just like everybody else, we're all trying to figure it out. So I want to thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
I
very
appreciated it. This was you know, it ceases to amaze me, you know, how much when you really get into a conversation with somebody, how much you learn, and just it's life. And
It is life, yeah.
Just trying to figure it out. So thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love it. This is great. So thank you for joining me on Real Feel Insights.